In my program, I bring the studio to the street and interact with everyday Nigerians, taking their worries, their concerns, their questions directly to the ears of their leaders. Senate President Bukola Saraki, Distinguished Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, His Excellency Nyesom Wike, Governor Okezie Victor Ikpeazu, the Executive Governor of Benue State, Samuel Orta. We interrogate the policies and objectives of key stakeholders in the political and development sector to ensure that the impact trickles down to the poorest of the poor in our society.
These people in the house, most of them, their brain don't work.
But do you agree that there were accusations that you made during the campaign that were not necessarily founded?
Me?
Yes.
So what do they call the incident of October 2006?
No impeachment. That's they call it rascality.
Rascality.
My goal is to dig deep and find the truth, then give meaning, understanding, and solution to it. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. The elections are finally over, hallelujah. Today we're going to discuss the agenda moving forward for the next 4 years. Don't go anywhere and we'll be right back on the Osasu Show. Welcome back to the Osasu Show. Joining me now is Mr. Segun Shomi, the presidential spokesperson of the Atiku Abubakar campaign organization. Thank you so much for joining us in today's
Thank you for having me, sir.
The elections have been won and lost. It's over, finally. I'm personally happy about this because I would like to move forward and discuss the agenda for 2023 in terms of how can we set policies that will affect the day-to-day Nigerians. So in your opinion, what are some fundamental issues we need to focus on for the next 4 years?
First of all, the elections are not won and done and over. I think there's always this error of thinking that the election is actually a one-day event. Election is a process. It starts from the parties trying to get themselves together, then there are the candidacy issues, then there's campaign, then there's INEC getting everybody ready, then there are the dates of the election, then there's the election proper, then there is perhaps the most important aspect, the post-election issues. It's within the post-election issues you can then say, oh, everything considered, this is a free, fair, credible, and acceptable election, and then obviously somebody has to shake the other guy and say, okay, you won this time, go get the country, we'll be here to provide opposition work. But if you look at all things on the table and consider the numbers from all over the place, what had happened, the words from the agent, the evidence and all that, and you find out that no election has taken place in actual fact, that at best a fraud has occurred. People have just allocated numbers. They have suppressed and repressed people. They've killed people. They've maimed people. They've not tidied up the books, and you're looking at a smoking gun.
So you believe your candidate, Atiku Abubakar, still stands a chance at winning in the court?
I believe His Excellency Atiku Abubakar won the election fair and square. I believe that one of the reasons why after an election that those tribunals exist, it's not for comic or play. I believe that those tribunals exist because it's been envisaged by those who designed the process that it's possible that there will be infractions warranting going to court. And I believe that he's gone to court, he's put his tribunal work together, the competition has been laid, and then in a couple of days, I believe they will start a trial, and I want to encourage all Nigerians, I encourage you to go into court, and just so that we know what happened. I've always said, and I've been saying for some time now, that the tribunal in 2019, for me, it's as it were the Nuremberg trial. And the reason why I kind of like to call it the Nuremberg trial is that, remember that during the Second World War, just before the war, Nobody in Europe believed that the kinds of things that Adolf Hitler and his gang were doing was that much until they got to trial. When they did the Nuremberg trial, that was when they started realizing really they gassed people. I believe that once the trial starts or the tribunal work starts, I believe that if we're interested enough to want to know how our leaders have emerged or whether they have the legitimacy required for them to call themselves leaders, then we should be interested. And maybe we're going to find out that they haven't tidied up things.
That's well and good for the PDP, but the only body that is giving the power to conduct elections and to declare winners and losers of the elections is INEC. And INEC has declared that President Muhammadu Buhari, the incumbent president, has been returned for another 4 years. So that's what we're going to focus on today's program. Given the fact that INEC has given a certificate of return to President Muhammadu Buhari, to Nigerians, he's our president for the next 4 years, unless the court rules otherwise. So what is the agenda that you would hope that this administration focuses on for the next 4 years?
I've looked at their next level document, and I've really looked at it well to try and see whether there's anything there that could maybe, comfort me if they have to go away with what they have stolen. And I haven't found anything there. So I think that we will have to double up on our side as opposition to now craft and be ready to be the alternative government or the shadow government so that we can then, hopefully because of the general good of all Nigerians, begin to nudge them in all of the directions that we need to nudge them. That is if the courts do not declare them of what they have taken, as far as I'm concerned, illegitimately. So for you to say you want to set an agenda for them, I think I could just say I want to push them in some direction that I want them to reflect on.
What directions are those?
I'll want them to reflect on being a leadership that's less parochial. They were way too parochial in the last 4 years. People felt that most of the appointments they made seemed to tailor towards a particular type of people or people they were pretty comfortable with or family members. I think they need to be pan-Nigeria now. I also think that they need to be less hypocritical. And what do I mean by that? If you want to run on anti-corruption, you have to really run on anti-corruption. And you have to run on anti-corruption, it doesn't matter whose ox is God. You can't run anti-corruption in such a manner where people get the impression that once they're your friends, they're free to do whatever they want. And once you think that they're not on the same point with you, then you make their liking. I think that won't be in their own best interest. There's also one other thing that I think he needs to worry about, and I think it'll be good for him to do. He had an extremely miserable response time to the people. It seemed to be that his handlers, or maybe him, were not ready to speak to the people. And I think that in a democracy, especially one that is as, evenly divided as ours, the leader needs to speak, or at least his message needs to come out there. People need to explain what the leader is doing. People need to, even if they don't, even the opponent, people like us who are his opponents, we don't need to agree with him, but we need to know what the perception is from his side, and we need to be seeing him trying to reach out to us. He can't only come and be talking to Nigerians when there's an election. And that seems to be what, and I pray that if we're stuck with it, I pray that he has the health to be able to carry it. And I also pray that he needs to also understand that this concept of imagining that he's an absentee president or some other persons are the ones driving the levers of powers behind him, the so-called cabal, he needs to shock those cabal, and he needs to demystify them, and he needs to be the president if he is the president.
Good ideas, but these ideas are also bereft of implications on the poorest of the poor in our society, the everyday Nigerians. I was hoping that we could even delve into more policies that would affect economic growth, better education, better healthcare systems. So when we look at, because it really baffles me that in Nigeria, most people are more gravitated towards the politics of things than the actual, improvement of our society holistically. So even everyday Nigerians who suffer the brunt of these issues more than you and I, who are sitting here in this air-conditioned studio. So I look today and I wonder, what can we do as a collective society to ensure that we can drive the government, we can push the government, we can propel them to create policies and actually implement them that will improve our basic infrastructure as a country?
From a policy viewpoint, I'm completely convinced that the policies of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar would have answered all of these questions. Some of those things that Atiku were talking about during the campaign, They were not easy things to say. It's not easy to say, I'm going to restructure the country. He's not naive. We know that some entrenched interests here and there would rather want the status quo. But based on what's going to be in the best interest of the country, you need to get the local government to work. We also looked at the country and the economy. And Atiku was very clear. We can't keep running the way we're running. We need to figure out how to bring in bigger players into the Nigerian economic space, because we have the market and we have the need that needs to be met. So you can almost see that there's the value that private sector can come and take, but you need to be a government that is willing to agree that private sector has a role in helping you to expand development and expand the economy and open it up. So we ran on private sector participation being on the increase. Obviously they didn't run on that, so I can suggest that to them. We ran into an avalanche of people thinking that just because Atiku was talking about privatization, he meant he wanted to sell the things to himself. That's very senseless. That's not how it's done. If you first of all accept that the policy of privatization is a policy that can help you expand your economy, then you have to allow those that are interested in big players, you have to make the environment conducive for them to come. You don't have the opportunity of picking and choosing who can play and who cannot play. It's actually expanding it up. And unfortunately, that's how the Nigerians are. And then there was also the issue of how do we even secure the country? We can't be having, oh, they kill people in Southern Kaduna. Next day, oh, they kill people in Zamfara. The next day, they kill people in Numan. We can't be like this. So if you're going to be looking at how do we secure the country, part of the things that Atiku Abubakar was saying very clearly is that it's time for us now to begin to think out with the idea of a multimodal policing structure. It's quite helpless that a governor is sitting in a state and he can't even provide security there in a way that the Constitution allows. It's quite unfortunate that a governor can become like a rat that is being chased about in his own state just because the entrenched interest in Abuja, the federal police and the federal army and the federal everything insist on having a different point of view than that of the governor that is already elected to do certain things in the state. Look at what's going on in Rivers. Almost all of the least vulnerable people in the country are with Atiku. And if you look at where are the people that are extremely vulnerable, it's almost as if you're saying that the ones that are extremely vulnerable are with his rival. And you then ask, what's the point in giving people the right to participate in a democracy, to choose leader, if you have not even educated them well enough to be able to know what to look out for in a good leader? And when all is then done and dusted, and you look at the result, you get the values from your agents, and all of those people bring it in, and you look at it and you're saying, oh, there's 300 votes that's supposed to be the maximum available here, and somebody has written 2,300 votes for your rival. It's tough to take, because at the end of the day, nobody will argue with a dictator who takes power. They will complain, they will organize and try to get him to leave, but they're not going to take him to court to leave. But in a democracy, the fundamental basic thing of a democracy is that people's votes must count. And if their votes don't count, or if people have great reservation as to what has happened, then they have to go to court. Well,
hearing you recap Atiku's policies, it reminds me that these are the basics that we need. Exactly. It's unfortunate that after 20 years of our democracy, we're still trying to get the basics right. You look at countries like China, and you wonder if we truly are going to be the third most populous country by 2050, why are we still fighting to get the basics right? I would give you a round of applause if it wasn't so trivial, these issues that we're discussing today. So when do we graduate to the level where we can be talking about, high-speed moving trains? We can be talking about, technology, 22nd century technology. We can talk about issues that the rest of the world is talking about. I mean, it's quite deplorable, the state of our infrastructure. Is quite senseless. You know, the fact that most Nigerians sit down and still discuss the politics of things rather than ways we can, you know, galvanize and move this country forward. And, you know, it breaks my heart that I've been doing this show now for 4 years, and I feel like I'm still talking about the same issues that I've been talking about since 2015. So how do we move forward? How do we, very lastly, because we've run out of time, how do we move forward? How do we graduate, you know, to the stage where we are rubbing minds with the rest of the world on AI, artificial intelligence, and, you know, technology that would create jobs for the third most populous nation in the world by 2050?
You see, I had hoped that the best of the elderly generations, the 70s and the 80-year-olds, whom I consider to be Atiku, had hoped that he was going to be able to emerge, and I'd really hoped that he would have been able to help us with the structural imbalances that allows everybody to just sit down in their states and local government and hope to be allocated some money from Abuja without a commensurate responsibility of auditing what you did with the money you got. And I'd hope that once we did that, then each of those areas will now begin to focus. Look, if you wanted to have your own train, say in Edo where you come from, if somebody was to think it up and say, look, let's connect all of the villages of Edo together, let's put a massive train system there. Do you know that your governor can't even dare unless it runs down to Abuja to come and take permission? This is part of the reasons why we're not making the kind of progress we need to make. So I think that going forward, we need to now calmly, strategically look for younger people. Younger people across the divide. Because I kind of like feel that the people in Kano are just as frustrated as the people in Ogun. And the people in Ogun are just as angry as the people in Edo. And the ones in Edo are just as irritated as the people in Rivers and Benue and all over the country. So I'm thinking that it's time for us now to grow a younger set, a different kind of leaders, who will first of all spend maybe about a year or two dissecting the issues, and then we can be talking about it continually, maybe in a retreat or a conference situation where we can then agree as to what exactly is the global idea we want to run, and then we can just try and go and run it. Because I think that sometimes when this nonsense of 2019 was going on, you know, I actually started querying, why are we following the American style democracy? Why are we not doing China? I found myself asking, how does China elect its leaders? How does China look for the people that are in charge of the rural areas? How do they do their political bureau? It got that bad. I was almost practically beginning to say, this American style democracy ain't going to work here. They're just going to keep killing themselves. They're going to keep fighting themselves over nonsense. They're not going to talk about the issues. They're not going to be accountable for anybody and to anybody. Everybody's going to talk about the president. They're going to leave the little thieves called governors just to steal. How do we? So you can tell that the spirit is really looking for how. And no one man has all the hows. It requires us to look for a few of us to just be interested. And you know what I fear? Osasu, I fear that we may just be the last generation of people who will care. I fear that our kids may not even know, they may not have a flicker of that glorious Nigeria that was told us in the days of school. That our kids may just be, oh, come on, man, that's one jungle. Let's just level it and use it for a race course. We could find ourselves in that kind of difficult situation. Most of our kids are abroad. Most of them are happy being there. Most of them don't even have this unexplained passion that makes an Osasu not to sit down in America and be trying to be Oprah Winfrey, but come here and try and start to do it here. Most of them can't wonder why Shegun is in Nigeria talking instead of being in Germany or in England or America and trying to be Obama. But it's just because our heart still believes that this country can still be great. We just need to now calmly begin to look for ourselves and begin to push for it and begin to hold people accountable. That's one of the reasons why I'm upset with Buhari. I had hoped that when Buhari came in, His Excellency President Buhari, when he came in 2015, I actually did think he was going to be very ruthless with corruption. I actually thought that governors in his own regime would dare not steal because of what he was doing to the previous. But you know what has happened? His governors are just thieves. The ones under his own office. I've seen people who had a very small, tiny house before they came in and became governor. I've seen them owning skyscrapers before the people. And some of them are acting like they got the inheritance of Solomon. And the president is running on anti-corruption. And it's, how can you explain Bola Tinubu 2 billion vans driving into South just around about election? And you're asking that if the anti-corruption drive had any meaning, that kind of stupid idea should never have crossed his mind, because he would have known that the next day in the morning, EFCC or somebody is just going to come there, arrest everybody, put him in jail, and try and tell him. But that's not what's happening. So invariably, over and above the fact that President Buhari ran on anti-corruption, so it's as we wasted our dictatorship, we're wasting our democracy, we're wasting our anti-corruption fight. It's like we're just wasting everything. We're not doing anything, holistically well and really good. Look at the curriculum we're running for education. We're seeing that artificial intelligence is taking roots in the world. Human beings are not even going to be able to get a real job if they're not even careful. Computers will take over everything. And yet, we're insisting on running the same curriculum in thatched roofs with schools where people like Success have to snap and cry and say, may they flog me, may they flog me. And when we finally looked at the schools they were even driving up from, the entire place is just a joke. It's an embarrassment. So we are going to have to fix this country. No angel is going to drop from the sky. God is not giving us more than what he's giving us. And I can tell you, on behalf of God, God is giving us a lot. Because we got good weather. We're not dealing with cyclones. We're only dealing with ourselves. And the earlier we just relax, make people, punish people for coming into government office to steal, really punish them. I'm talking 10 years in prison, no joke, put them on hard labor, give them a cutlass, let them go and farm some vegetables. And then that way,
yes,
we can then say, okay, everybody knows, if you want to go and steal, don't bother because you're going to jail then. We have to do something.
It's definitely a conversation that we must continue in the episodes to come. We've dedicated the season of the Osasu show to truly identifying the issues and solutions to them. And we're really compelled to do so this year, this season, to come up with solutions, to talk with like minds like yourself, how we can move this country forward truly. So Mr. Segun Choromi, always a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you.
It's only my pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. We'll take a break right now. When we return, more on the Osasu Show Foundation. Don't go anywhere.
The TOS TV Network mobile app is now available. You can now catch up on our breaking news, stream our programs live, watch out for the latest update on sports and politics as they unfold. You can also get notifications for our upcoming programs and events. All these on our TOS TV Network mobile app, available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. TOS TV News from Africa by Africans.
We're grateful to Osasu Show Foundation.
I received funds from the Osasu Show Foundation and I'm grateful.
I just received financial support from the Osasu Show Foundation.
I just received a scholarship from Miss Osasu Show Foundation.
I received financial support from the Osasu Show Foundation.
I received financial support from Osasu Foundation.
I want to thank Madam Osasu for paying my school fees.
God Almighty will bless the Osasu Show Foundation.
And I pray that as she does this, the Almighty God will bless her.
Thank you, Osasu Foundation.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a musician.
You want to be a musician?
Pastor.
You want to be a pastor? I love that.
Lawyer.
Lawyer.
I want to be a footballer.
Footballer. We'll assist your matron with, a little stipend of 500,000 naira, so she can pay for.
Thank you, Osasu Show Foundation.
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 That's it for today's program. Follow us on social media at The Osasu Show, at TOS TV Network, at Osasu Igbinadian, and at The Osasu Show Foundation on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Visit our website for news and current affairs and sustainable developments across Africa. That's www.tostvnetwork.com. I'll see you same time, same place next week, and until then, join the conversation by emailing or texting the number on the screen. Take very good care of yourself. God bless you.